Hey, everybody, and welcome to our nightly Bible study. So, listen, I want to apologize first. We have been having some very frustrating problems with going live on Facebook. And so, like tonight, for instance, so this is actually being recorded, uploaded to YouTube, and then we'll share it on our Facebook page as well. So, whether you're watching it on YouTube or Facebook or whatever, just so you know, that's what's happening. So we're trying to figure out why this is happening. We can't go live on any of our devices, whether it be a laptop, a phone, an iPad, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. And so we're trying to figure it out, see what's going on. Hopefully, and I know Facebook has had a few challenges recently, and maybe that's why. But we're going to try to get this fixed and figure out what's going on, and so we can go live. Worst case scenario is that we just have to do recorded stuff and upload it, and you watch it. Maybe we can try to have it uploaded by Wednesday at 6 or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out. My hope too is that we'll be in our facility doing these things and not at my house. My greatest hope is that we start having people come back to Wednesday nights and do some of these studies and be able to talk and share, as well as be on video so people can participate who can't be there. That's my greatest hope, and so I hope that it does happen, and I'll keep you updated. We're talking about the Sabbath and the high Sabbaths. God established the Sabbath and the high Sabbaths, obviously. The Sabbath is for every Saturday. And then the high Sabbaths, there's 2 in the spring, 1 in the summer, and 4 in the fall. And then there are the high holy days, a 10-day period between the high Sabbaths of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And we'll talk about that as well. Right now, though, we're really focused on the Sabbath itself. And so the last time that we had a class together, we really focused on, well, how does that work? What is the temple worship like? What is the church like, essentially, during the Sabbath day? Like, what all is involved? And as we talked, the Sabbath really begins at sundown on Friday night and goes through Saturday at sundown, right? So it's from sundown to sundown. Whereas we typically midnight to midnight is one day, or some would say sunrise to sunrise. But in Judaism, it is sundown one night, and then that day is until sundown the next. So that whole Saturday, or actually Friday night into Saturday night, that is the Sabbath. We see the Sabbath established in Leviticus chapter 23, verse 3. It says, 6 days shall work be done, but on the seventh day is a Sabbath of solemn rest, a holy convocation. You shall do no work. It is a Sabbath to the Lord in all your dwelling places. Now, I know we talked a little bit about the day of rest the last time, and I really want to expand on that today as we kind of go through this. And there's a realization I had while studying all of this. And it was just one of those things that made me go, like when we study something and we look at it and we've read it all this, many times, or we've heard it many times, and then all of a sudden, for whatever reason, like it hits you a little differently. And I got to tell you, something hit me a little differently when I was going through all of this and preparing for today. And so I'll have that for you here in a little bit. I want to share that with you because it really just kind of not got to me, but just made me really think about something very specific. And I'll share more later. And then we're also going to talk about a little bit too is how they viewed the Sabbath and the no work, and then how we view our Sunday, which essentially is the Sabbath, right? That's essentially the Christian Sabbath. But there is obviously the Jewish Sabbath that was established in Leviticus chapter 23. So we're going to talk about all those things coming up in just a little bit. But again, Leviticus chapter 23, verse 3 is what establishes the Sabbath. And it is God basically ordering a day of rest on the Sabbath. Now, as we talked about last time, there are all these other things that are involved with the Sabbath, the worship and the candle lightings and the meals and all that kind of stuff. But it really all kind of comes together when we talk about a day of rest. What is a day of rest? Well, the Sabbath isn't a bunch of things that you just can't do. It is really meant to be a life change for one day a week. So when we think about life change, as a Christian, when I become a Christian, I'm thinking differently, I act differently, I do things differently, but that's meant to be like every day the rest of our lives. In Judaism, when it comes to the Sabbath, it is really about taking this one day and just making it different than what it normally is. And in that one day, as we have this change of lifestyle, one day a week, the idea behind it is to create this environment that is not only about rest, but it really is about peace and love and joy. That's really what it's about. It's about creating this environment that for one day a week, you relax from all of the challenges and troubles that happen throughout the week. And you just keep that all at arm's length, and that day is just for you and for you and God. It is for you to clear your mind, to find some peace, to remember the love that God has for you, and to be enjoying that peace and love during that day of rest. So it's creating this environment that is different from every other day of the week. So we're going to get more into that, and then more into the thing that popped in my mind during my study, getting ready for this study. We'll talk about that in a few minutes, but I want you to understand that what it means to have a day of rest in the eyes of someone who is in a part of Judaism. So there are 39 categories of forbidden work. Okay, 39 categories. So there is the field work, which includes sowing, plowing, reaping, gathering, and binding, threshing, winnowing, selecting, grinding, sifting, kneading, and baking. So basically, you can't do any field work. You can't go out and many times on a Sunday we drive around and there's tractors out in the field or trucks out in the field, or they're doing their thing because weather's weather and they got to get it out before the cold weather hits or get it out before the rain hits or whatever it is that they're doing. In Judaism, it doesn't matter what's going on. You cannot go out and work the fields. Now, working the fields back then, a little different than now. We think about the tractors that we have now and how many rows they can plow and all that they can do. I mean, it's totally different. Back then, there wasn't a bunch of huge acreage. It was really, much smaller, and you're lucky to be able to plow just one row at a time, let alone two or three. Many times you're working on your own, or you may have if you're lucky, you had a hand uh, working for you, or you had kids who were out there in the fields, young men that would be out there working as well. It was such a different time than it is today. Um, so working in the fields, I mean, it was work. It's almost like today, because of technology, only because of technology, but because of technology, it's almost like you don't need anyone. I mean, really, if you think about what's going on with technology, it's just going to come someday that I'm just going to, somebody can just get on their iPad and program their tractor, and the tractor's just going to go out and grab the right plow or the right whatever machinery and just head out into the field and do all the work. It's pre-programmed in. It's going to do all the work and come back. Program your center pivots, and they'll just go through every day and water everything. And you can watch your water saturation, and then when it's time for harvest, you'll program the tractor to go out there and do it all on its own. I mean, honestly, you really think about it, it's kind of where we're heading. It's eventually someday. What working the fields back then was totally different. Now, what's interesting is when you get to the end of that list, what came up? Grinding, sifting, kneading, baking. I mean, that means, ladies, you're not cooking on a Sunday. There's no Sunday meal to cook. There's none of that. Like, it is Everybody enjoys a day of rest on the Sabbath in Judaism. Everybody, not just men, men and women enjoy that moment and that time. So that means you're not trying to cook the Sunday dinner. It's all pre-done. As a matter of fact, we're going to talk about that preparation in just a few moments, but it's all done beforehand. So not only can you not do field work, but you also can't work with fabric. So as I mentioned, ladies, typically in this day and time are the ones doing the sewing and, putting garments together, curtains and clothes and all that kind of stuff. So that means they can't shear wool, clean, comb, dye, spin, stretch the threads, make the loops, weave the threads, separate the threads, tie a knot, untie a knot, sewing or tearing. Can't do any of that. Now, what's interesting too is like one of the things you heard me say was you can't tie a knot. Okay. Obviously, in the time of Jesus with shoes, that's not an issue. Sort of. But later on, it's an issue. Why? Because we have shoelaces. If you can't tie a shoelace, then you can't walk anywhere unless you got slip-ons. So they actually define that tying a shoe is okay. Untying a shoe, it's all right. Anything else, though, can't tie. Can't do it. So we can get into all of the definitions, too, of the things that I'm telling you, because it gets ridiculous. And this goes back, when we think about like the book of Hebrews and places where Paul writes, the law is just impossible to keep up with. There's all these different categories and all these different things. And that's really a great example, tying and untying, right? What's allowed and what's not allowed. Someone said once that, people break the law all the time because there's so many laws, especially federal laws, that you don't know about, that you're breaking the law without even knowing you're breaking the law. The same thing applies to the law, where there's so many laws, people couldn't keep up with all of it. And because they couldn't keep up with all of it, that meant they were breaking laws. That means that they were never, ever, ever really righteous, because they couldn't keep up with all of it, which is why we need Jesus. So, moving on. So you can't work in the field, you can't work the leather, and you can't, work with fabric. Now you can't work with leather. So there's no trapping, slaughtering, skinning, tanning, smoothing, ruling lines, or cutting. Can't do any of that with leather. You can't write or erase. You can't write or erase. There's no construction works, no building or breaking anything down, no matter what happens, no matter what's going on. And there's no working with fire. You can't extinguish a fire, kindle a fire, strike the final hammer blow, or light a match, so to speak, to start a fire. You can't do any of that. You can't carry wood to make a fire. So, what do you do in the winter? Well, they have that defined too, right? Because that comes up. Well, wait a minute. We can't make a fire in the winter on the Sabbath. That's a whole day, 24 hours. It gets cold. What are we supposed to do? Well, you just cover up. Well, what if we don't have enough? Not everyone has as many clothes or warm clothes. I mean, it just gets really wonky. Because you think about that. I can't build a fire. How can I stay warm if I don't build a fire? But they define that as well. So the Sabbath really, while we look at that list, it's a long, long list. And while we look at that list and we say there's no way that we can do all of this stuff or not do all of this stuff, it really comes down to the purpose of the Sabbath. And again, the purpose of the Sabbath is to bring peace. One of the things I read this week was saying, peace about nature and society within ourselves, right? We take that moment and that time to kind of reflect about things and what's happening in our life and all of that. Then there is the part about joy. And this is where we're going to get into some thoughts I had this week. Joy. So the idea behind the Sabbath, too, was since you're not going to do all that work, it is time to spend with family and friends and to enjoy food and wine and company. So here's the thing about the Sabbath. In the Sabbath, sadness is banished. On the Sabbath, every Saturday, you cannot be sad. As a matter of fact, they take it to an even greater extreme. Let's say that you have a loved one who dies, and you want to adhere to the law about when they should be buried, but that means it's on the Sabbath. They say, no, no, nothing on the Sabbath when it comes to funerals. We'll wait until Monday because sadness is banished. Not only is sadness banished, but active mourning is expressly forbidden on the Sabbath. I'm going to say that again. Active mourning is expressly forbidden on the Sabbath. So now I'm going to read you a bunch of verses from Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. In John 19:38-2, later Joseph of Arimathea asked Pilate for the body of Jesus. Now Joseph was a disciple of Jesus, but secretly because he feared the Jewish leaders. With Pilate's permission, he came and took the body away. He was accompanied by Nicodemus, the man who earlier had visited Jesus at night. Nicodemus brought a mixture of myrrh and aloes, about 75 pounds. Taking Jesus' body, the two of them wrapped it with the spices in strips of linen. This was in accordance with Jewish burial customs. At the place where Jesus was crucified, there was a garden. In the garden, a new tomb in which no one had ever been laid. Because it was the Jewish day of preparation, and since the tomb was nearby, they laid Jesus there. That's John 19:38-42. The next part of John, it talks about the resurrection of Jesus Christ. This is Mark 15:42-47. And when evening had come, since it was a day of preparation, that is, the day before the Sabbath, Joseph of Arimathea, a respected member of the council who was also himself looking for the kingdom of God, took courage and went to Pilate and asked him for the body of Jesus. Pilate was surprised to hear that he should have already died. And summoning the centurion, he asked him whether he was already dead. And when he learned from the centurion that he was dead, he granted the corpse to Joseph. And Joseph bought a linen shroud and took him down, wrapped him in the linen shroud, and laid him in a tomb that had been cut out of the rock. And he rolled a stone against the entrance of the tomb. Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of Joseph, saw where he was laid. Again, Mark 15:42-47. This is Matthew 27:57-61. When it was evening, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who was also a disciple of Christ. He went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. Then Pilate ordered it to be given to him, and Joseph took the body and wrapped it in a clean linen shroud and laid it in his own new tomb, which he had cut in the rock. And he rolled a great stone to the entrance of the tomb and went away. Mary Magdalene and the other Mary were there, sitting opposite the tomb. Again, Matthew 27:57-61. Finally, Luke 23:50-56. Now there was a man named Joseph from the Jewish town of Arimathea. He was a member of the council, a good and righteous man. He had not consented to their decision and action and was looking for the kingdom of God. This man went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. Then he took it down and wrapped it in a linen shroud and laid him in a tomb cut in stone where no one had ever yet been laid. It was a day of preparation and the Sabbath was beginning. The women who had come with him from Galilee followed and saw the tomb and how his body was laid. Then they returned and prepared spices and ointments. On the Sabbath they rested according to the commandment. So these people, as we look through the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and all of that, they get Jesus, which they needed to, because in Deuteronomy 21:22-23, Deuteronomy chapter 21, verse 22 and 23. And if a man has committed a crime punishable by death, and he is put to death, and he's hanged, and you hang him on a tree, his body shall not remain all night on the tree, but you shall bury him the same day, for a hanged man is cursed by God. You shall not defile your land that the Lord your God is giving you for an inheritance. So they knew they had to get Jesus off the cross before the sun went down. Joseph goes to Pilate. Can I please have Jesus? Pilate is astonished that Jesus is already dead. Hey, can you go check and see if he's dead? Centurion comes back and goes, yeah, he's already dead. Pilate says, okay, you can have the body of Jesus. Joseph and Nicodemus take the body of Jesus down. They transport him to this tomb. They put some spices on him. They wrap him in the burial cloths. The women are watching all this unfold and take place, and they put him in this tomb that no one has ever been in before, and they roll the stone over the tomb. The guards come to guard the tomb. That's not in this, but we know that takes place. And then they leave. Now, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary and a few women, they apparently stick around a little while opposite of the tomb, but eventually they leave too because it's the Sabbath. And on the Sabbath, sadness is forbidden, it's banished. Mourning is forbidden. And you have Mary, the mother of Jesus, Mary Magdalene, all the apostles, all the disciples, everyone who's been following him, his entire family, his friends, who watched this horrific death. They've been waiting, listening, being taught, trying to figure out what Jesus is talking about and what he's going to do and what does he mean and what does he mean and what does it mean for them and how is he going to free them, and they're trying to figure all this out, and then all of a sudden he's arrested. He goes through all the trials. He is beaten. He is put on the cross, and he dies on the cross. This man that they love and that they have followed, the Messiah, has been killed on the cross. Peter is not only mourning the death of his Lord and Savior, or mourning the death of Jesus, who he knows to be the Messiah, but he's also mourning the fact of what? Of his denial of Jesus as the Messiah and someone that he knew. Some of the other apostles, I got to imagine, are mourning the fact that they weren't by his side when he was arrested. They weren't there to protect him. John, who he loved greatly, and John loved him greatly, was mourning this loss. And I got to say, probably with the mother of Jesus. But sadness and mourning is banished on the Sabbath. What do you do? I mean, where do you go? You're heartbroken. I think it's one thing to lose the family member or someone close to you and not be able to mourn on the Sabbath. But it's another. We just think about Jesus and what he meant to so many people. And it wasn't just a small group of people. We're talking hundreds of people. Think about all the people he taught, all the people that he saved. They are all mourning the death of Jesus, but they can't mourn. As a matter of fact, mourning in Judaism is like a 7-day process. And the only day that you can leave your house is on the Sabbath. It's the only day you can leave your house. So, what are they doing? Did they go anywhere? I mean, we would go to church. But do you think they went to the temple? Because they can't really mourn. And if we think about who put Jesus on the cross, it was the Jewish leadership. So do you want to go to the temple to listen to the people that put Jesus on the cross? What did they do in that whole 24-hour period? The sun went down on Friday night, the Sabbath begun, and they are mourning. They're not supposed to. How did they find joy and peace and love in that 24-hour period? I don't think they did. I don't think they could have found that. Even though that's what it's meant for, I gotta think there were too many questions. They didn't understand. They didn't see the full picture that Jesus had been trying to paint for them all this time. It's the Sabbath. There's no mourning. There's no sadness. It's a day of joy. But where do you find the joy? Where do you find the peace? Where do you find the love? Do you go to the tomb? Some of the women hung out at the tomb, but maybe too far away because you can't walk. You can only walk a certain distance on a Sabbath. That's why they had a temple in every corner practically, so you wouldn't have to worry about the distance that you're walking to get to temple. What do you do? The law is still the law. Christ has not been resurrected. And even if he had, would they have understood? Would they have thought it was okay to mourn? Of course, they wouldn't want to mourn anymore. They want to celebrate. Why? Because Jesus is alive. Jesus isn't alive yet. On the Sabbath day, following the Passover, following his death, the law is still the law. By the way, the only time, well, I mentioned this already, mourners going to leave their homes on the Sabbath. The Sabbath in Hebrew literature is depicted in two ways. It's depicted as the bride and a queen. The bride, because God created the days of the week and he put them together. Sunday has Monday, Tuesday has Wednesday, Thursday has Friday, but out there by itself is the Sabbath Saturday. And so literature, in the Hebrew literature, says the Sabbath then went to God and said, God, I'm all alone. And God said, I know, that's why you are my bride, which was then given to the nation of Israel. A bride is a symbol of love, devotion, and joy, all inward feelings. And the idea is that one prepares for the Sabbath with the same zeal as one prepares for a wedding. So think about your wedding and all the preparations that go into your wedding. Do you prepare that way for church? Are you thinking way ahead? Or is it Sunday morning and it's just time to go to church? So it's like the bride, but it's also like a queen. Why a queen? Because she represents the stern and harshness of the law. Right? So you can't find and enjoy peace, love, and joy if you don't understand or know the rules that govern how to get peace, love, and joy. So why does a bride and a queen bring, or what does a bride and queen bring to the Sabbath? Well, the bride, again, imagine a wedding without a bride. What's the purpose? I mean, who's making the vows? Where's the beauty? Where is the warmth of the ceremony? It would just be people hanging out and just saying words because there's no one making a commitment one to the other. And think about a court without a queen. There's no focus, no one to guide or direct. And again, you're just going through the motions. You're doing the bare minimum. There's no motivation. So every week, great preparation is made for the Sabbath. It's planned out. There's a food menu, invitations that are sent. I mean, think about what you can't do on the Sabbath. You got to make sure all that is done before the sun goes down. Meals are ready, water, drinks, wine, it's all ready to go. And then everybody just gathers on the Sabbath, and you eat, and you light candles, and go through ceremonies, and you go to the temple, and you go back home and eat and drink, and you go back to the temple, and you go back home, eat and drink, and then the Sabbath is over. There's a lot of preparation that goes into that. We have Sundays. Sundays is our God time. Is when we speak to God, worship God, hear from God as a community. Now, we should be doing that on our own every single day, but as a community of believers, Sunday is our day together, Sunday morning. Traditional. So my question to you is, how do you approach Sunday? And how are you preparing for every Sunday? Our Sunday should be about peace, love, and joy, right? It is the peace that we feel when we come to know Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. It's the love that we feel because we know God loved us so much and what He's done for us. And it's the joy that we have because we've accepted Christ and we know what that means for us, and it brings us this an unbelievable joy. But what do we do to prepare for that particular day? Or do you just get up, eat, drink milk or coffee, take a shower, put your clothes on, go to church, have church, go eat lunch somewhere, and you go back home and then you relax the rest of the day? Or go do whatever it is that you do on a Sunday? Do you have any thought about the importance of Sunday as a community of believers? Peace, love, and joy is what it should bring. If it's not bringing peace, love, and joy, you need to figure out why. Is it because I'm not focused? Is it because there are distractions, worldly distractions, that are keeping me from being focused on God and on Jesus on a Sunday? Is my church helping me focus on that every Sunday? Am I getting anything out of the teachings and the preaching that go on? Am I opening myself up to worship in the right way? Am I too focused on the wrong things about worship, which could be, hymns versus praise and worship, or piano versus full band or no band, or whatever the case may be? Where's my focus when I worship? Like, there's all these questions that we need to be asking ourselves. How are we preparing for Sunday? Do we recognize God's love, grace, and mercy every Sunday? And do we find the joy in our Sunday? Do we find the peace and the love in our Sunday? And how is that helping us carry throughout the rest of the week? Because really, in reality, that Sabbath day, that day of rest that God created for the Jews, for the nation of Israel, was meant to provide those things, but also was meant to recharge the batteries and prepare them for the rest of the week. Are you recharged? Are you ready for the rest of the week? Or are you dreading it? Do you have the energy? Do you have the passion to get through the rest of the week? Or are you dreading it? What are you doing to prepare for Sunday? Joseph and Nicodemus prepared Jesus for Sunday. The women were prepared to go back on Sunday. The Jews prepared themselves for the Sabbath. What are we doing to prepare ourselves? Preparation is key to not just every day, but every Sunday, every Wednesday that we get together, just all the time. So, how are you preparing? Again, I apologize for all of the technical problems we've been having, and we're going to get this fixed sooner or later. If you have questions, feel free to text me. You can call me. You can email me, pastorg72@gmail.com. You can message me on our Facebook page or my personal Facebook page. Whatever you want to do is fine. And I hope you have yourself a great week. We'll see you Sunday, 9:30 Sunday school, 10:30 worship, 940 South Kings Highway. Construction's coming along. I'm feeling good. We got a lot done this week. So hopefully we'll see some major changes here pretty soon. Okay. So thank you again, as always. Have yourself a great week, and may God bless.